Greetings survivors and friends, Shadowfrax here. Hope you're all well and surviving successfully. Today I wanted to make a video about a custom map, and first of all I'd like to say this isn't a sponsored one. I know the world teaches us to be cynical and that if you say something nice about something then you're probably being paid to do so, but not in this case. This map has personal meaning for me and I'll get to that in a moment. When I first found out that we were going to be able to make our own custom maps, I made some predictions about what we would see, and as well as some of the more obvious shapes, let's say, I also believed that we would see quite soon a remake of the original Legacy Island, the original Rust Island 2013. Now I'm willing to bet that quite a few of you watching this used to play Rust Legacy as I did, but for those of you who didn't, this is what the original Rust map looked like. Now this thing was pretty huge by today's standards. I believe it was about 16k, which works out at 256 square kilometers. To put that in a bit of context, Chernarus is only 225. Now even though the island was this size, only about a sixth of it was actually ever used, even though you could potentially build anywhere. And this is because all of the rad towns and sources of loot were confined to a small area in the southwest corner of the map. You could of course go off into the wilderness and build anywhere if you liked, but you'd have a much longer walk to the shops. All of the respawn points were around here anyway as well, so there wasn't really much point in going anywhere else. Compared to what we have now with the proc gen maps, this one was really quite sparse and featureless. However, a lot of people really liked it, myself included, and I'll talk about why I think that was in a little bit. Now for years people have been going on and on the subreddit about how they'd like to play the Legacy map but with new Rust to see how it would work, but unfortunately we haven't been able to do that until now. And even though Happis Island was kind of meant to be a replacement for the Legacy map, it's never really had the same feel. Sorry. So what happened was that not long after we were able to make custom maps, someone took the old Rust Legacy Island and produced a height map from it. It was then that the owners of the Horde Rust servers picked up the gauntlet and decided to run with it. And you might have heard of these chaps. They run a zombie server that's been featured a couple of times on the community updates, as well as 2 or 3 others. But there were some initial challenges to overcome, mainly that the original map was, as I say, 16k, but the maximum size of map we're allowed now is only 6. What they had to do was then slice off a section of the map, the most important part, and turn the cut-off edges into sheer cliffs. Which kind of works, actually. Another good thing is that as well as getting the height map, it was also possible to get hold of a splat map and radiation levels for all of the rad towns. This means it was dead simple to recreate the exact grass and forest areas as before. The only really tedious thing was to place all of the rock clusters on the hills, and if you've ever played Legacy, you'll remember that the hills were actually covered with a labyrinth of rock pillars and clusters. Of course, we've got different prefabs now. It's not possible to put them exactly where they were before, but the feel, I'm glad to say, is still the same. You see, one of the big things that I really enjoyed about the Legacy map, and I know a lot of people will agree with me, is that there were plenty of places to hide a base. Within these maze-like pillars of rock, it was really easy to squirrel yourself away, and I remember going through entire wipes without anybody finding out where I'd been stashing myself. Also, because the hills weren't as easy to traverse, it kind of broke the landscape up more and gave some really good opportunities to ambush your enemies. For all the good stuff about the proc gen maps, the rock clusters there just don't do it for me, I'm sorry. You might as well try and hide a base in a field or something. Now it's funny because the first time I started running around this map, even though the assets are obviously all different, because the height map is the same and the scale is all the same, it felt spookily familiar. It just felt like I was back in Legacy. And I challenge anyone who does know Legacy to just pop on if you get a moment and see how it feels to you, because I'd be interested to know if you get the same sort of vibe off of it. Now back in the day, as people played the map, they came up with names for all of the valleys and mountains and rad towns. And when it comes to recreating the rad towns, that has been a little bit of a challenge because the assets that we have now are quite different to what there was before. Superior, yes, but trying to get exactly the same layout and buildings hasn't been that easy. Still, I think they've done a really good job so far, and some have been fairly straightforward, such as the hangar, which we've got a good model of now, and that looks not too far off what it was before. One thing that I have noticed, seeing how people have been playing on this map and taking into consideration that some of these people have never played Legacy at all, is that the places where they're choosing to build most are the same ones that used to be the most popular back in the day. Now, this might not really mean anything, but it's interesting to see the way that people are playing now is very similar to how it was in the past. There are another couple of features on this map that have been missing from Rust for a very long time. First of all, if you ever did play Legacy, then you'll probably remember what happened if you traveled down to the water's edge and decided to dip your toe in. Yes, instant death. That has been recreated here thanks to a plugin. And yeah, I wouldn't really recommend going in the sea. Also, if you were playing long enough ago, then you will remember that Rust did indeed have zombies. And thanks to the Horde having a zombie plugin already that they're using on one of their other servers, it was quite easy to implement it here. And there's about 50 zombies that you'll find spread across the map, which sounds like a lot, but actually they're quite spread out. So there's not really too many of them to have to worry about, but they are there, and it's a nice, authentic touch. Besides, there are no rad bears or rad wolves, and there's no scientists on this map either, so it's good to have an NPC that will actually drop some loot for you. Apart from that, you've also got junk piles along the road, because with the new systems, you're going to need scrap. Also, there are about 4 of the old-style caves hidden around the map, if you can find them. Now, I've been following the progress of this map for a while, and it's pretty much there now. The biggest thing left to do is to add a proper road, because at the moment it's just a stone texture, and they're just waiting for a couple of extra features to be added to the editor so they can do that easily. I think they might even be having a special race event around the track when that happens to celebrate. I want to say thanks to the Horde for letting me film this and for putting in all the effort to make this map a reality. And it is, of course, a work in progress still, so as time goes on, it will continue to be improved on. At the moment, it only wipes once a month, and I'll leave all the connection details down below in the description for you to check it out. Plus, I'll leave you a link to their website as well, because they do run other servers, as I mentioned, including their zombie one and a minigame server, as well as some normal Rust servers, just in case you're not into Legacy. Please leave me a comment down below and let me know your thoughts. This is something that the community's been asking for literally years, and now it's here. Just remember, it is early days, the map still isn't 100% finished, and it will continue to be tweaked and refined. I'd really like to know what you think though, especially if you're a Legacy veteran like I am. Please leave a like and sub to the channel for news, reviews, and lots more quality content. Come join me on Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, Discord, and my Steam group, and I shall catch you all soon, but in the meantime, keep calm and stay rusty. Cheerio!